Okay, so this video is going to be on DXM, not to be confused with DMX, which is a rapper. DXM is dextromethorphan, and it is a cough suppressant, and in lower dosages. In higher dosages, it's a recreational drug. But I want to talk about using it maybe in the range, I don't know, I'd say maybe like 1 to 200 milligrams worth of it. Which it's not really what you think of so much as like a trip. Higher range of that maybe. There's different like plateaus when you think of using it recreationally, and you're not really like tripping at the dosage of 1 to 200 milligrams so much, but it's useful. Well, I don't know if it's useful, but I want to talk about using it because people are using they're using this as a way to sort of self-medicate depression. You know, it's an NMDA antagonist, and those seem to be all the rage right now for depression. You know, there's ketamine, and memantine is another NMDA antagonist that's particularly big in the nootropics community, but I don't think that one's used quite so much as for depression as like, you know, ketamine is. It's kind of a diverse group of drugs, and I don't know. Anyway, the point is, people are using DXM to try to self-medicate depression. Now, the experts will tell you that you should not do this, and the reason is, you know, of course they always tell you that you shouldn't do this stuff, and so it always makes you wonder, like, well, are they just saying that because that's what they say, or should we really not be doing this? It is one that I think you should probably really not be experimenting with in that regard. I mean, as always, I'm going to tell you, if you have depression, like if you really are clinically in a state of depression, then you should go see a doctor. Or, I mean, if you think you are, then you should go see a doctor. But, you know, it's not always real accessible for people either. I think people who suffer from mental illness the most are not really in the position to just go to a doctor all the time and get medications. So people do experiment, and I think, you know, it's not a completely bad idea. I don't remember what the name of the drug is, but there is a drug out there that doctors are prescribing off-label for depression, and it is like 30 milligrams of DXM and then something else to sustain it, so you don't have to use as much of the DXM. Because this is the one thing, it does seem to work, but the reason that you shouldn't use it is there is some risks with it. Probably the biggest one for most people would be the risk of addiction. DXM is one of those things, it's weird because, you know, a lot of people just flat out don't like it. The people that do like it, they tend to really like it, and who knows? I mean, I don't know. Maybe the reason is because it's helping them with depression, so this, you know, addiction is that's, you know, that it works. But I'm not an expert on this particular issue, so I'm not going to tell you that's what it is and that there's no risk of actually getting addicted. I don't know how physiologically addictive. I just think it's something about it that makes it particularly addictive psychologically for people. But I don't know. When put that way, it kind of makes me think that maybe they are actually getting something from it that's helping them to function. But even if it's the case, you know, I think people can get carried away with things and try to take more, thinking that more is better. So be careful if you're like trying to experiment with this for your own self-treatment purposes. I'm telling you, it's not something that you should do, but even if you want to do it, you know, just be careful. So there's that. I've also found that it's useful for like numbing or kind of like damping down negative thought patterns too. And also it's good for sort of amplifying emotions. and helping you to work with those better. So those are the things that I find it to be useful for. Again, these are all effects that I have noticed uh, without having to be in like a heavy recreational range. Only like 1 to 200 milligrams, so you're not tripping balls, okay? Uh, the most, it's like in terms of the psychoactive effects, the subjective ones, in that range, it's more just a speedy sort of well-being, maybe even euphoric, but you're not like hallucinating or anything, so it's somewhat manageable. And it's some type of thing that even at that dosage, I wouldn't want to suggest trying to use it every single day. Um, as far as if it causes brain damage or not, it is an open issue. Um, it seems to be that if it is going to cause brain damage, it's probably more that you'd have to use it both chronically and at high levels. But there's a lot, I guess, that's not really known about the risks still. Like probably better safe than sorry. I experimented with it, and it's probably not too much harm in that range, but there's so many other good nootropics out there. And because of the risks, I can't actually consider DXM to be a nootropic either. But whatever it is that you call it, I mean, it's not really a supplement. It's just a drug. That these are all drugs, but I don't know. I don't know what to call it in terms of how we're using it here. It's basically self-medicating. That's what it is, and so yeah, I can't really advocate self-medicating things. But so that's my verdict. Basically, is to just not try it. But I wanted to put out there that people are using it, and if you do want to experiment with it, don't experiment with it on back-to-back days. I would suggest that the dosage that in the 1 to 200 milligram dosage that I'm talking about, probably you'd still at least probably a week between usages, just to be on the safe side. And if you really want, the pharmacology of DXM is complex. It's basically another one of these dirty drugs. Dirty in the sense that it just acts on a lot of different receptors. It has a lot of mechanisms of action. And the one that probably gets the most attention is the NMDA antagonism. If you really want an NMDA antagonist, there's one that is more of a nootropic, memantine. And, I would suggest experimenting with that. I think serotonin is another one that actually does get hit. Serotonin is well known. There's a lot of different things out there that you can try to experiment with melatonin and serotonin. Actually, this is, to be honest, like, even if you really wanted to trip, I would suggest that you would just, use the illegal stuff because, honestly, I mean, it's safer. It's another one of these instances where the thing that is legal is more dangerous than the things that are illegal. And it doesn't work, and the effect is probably not as enjoyable I'm going to say, not as much what you're looking for, I should say. But whatever, I would suggest, if you really want to do that, or you want to play around with serotonin receptors, maybe the traditional psychedelics would be better for you. But I understand the legality is an issue, and so that is, from a practical standpoint, something that you have to keep in mind. Now, there's other active ingredients in there, in some of these cough syrups too, so you want to be sure, if you really want to use that, to use only DXM, or it's not terribly hard to extract the DXM from this, even if there's other ingredients a lot of the time, depending on the extraction method. So Maybe that would be your better bet too. It's cleaner. At least you don't have to gag on a bunch of cough syrup. But again, at the dosage that I said, you shouldn't have to get through that much cough syrup either. I used children's cough Robitussin. It had the only thing in there. That was one they didn't have behind the counter. And because I was using it at a lower dosage, I didn't really have to still drink that much of it, even though it was children's. Like some people get like full-blown adult Robitussin and drink like 2 bottles of it. But I don't know. I'm trying to leave this video on a note where I'm not like advocating using it, but I don't want to just like tell you not to use it and like give you no information either, because that's the whole point. But that's pretty much it. Don't use it, but be safe if you do. So, okay.